All right, so last week we worked on visible mending my husband's jeans. This week we are working on invisible mending my jeans. Okay, I'm sure we've all been there. We've all had this experience. You have a pair of jeans, maybe you're lucky enough to find them in a store that they fit perfectly, or like me, maybe you've added an elastic into the waistband and you've worn them enough that they're all broken in and they have a gorgeous fit and they're comfortable and they're your favorite, and then this happens. Every darn time. We're gonna deal with this. Okay, so the reason that I'm using invisible mending here instead of the visible mending is because as cute as visible mending is, I don't want that kind of attention in that area, you know? So I'm gonna switch to my top-down camera and we will get this going. All right, so before we get started, I'm gonna show you the things that we are going to be using. I have some medium weight interfacing. So it's not super stiff, and I want to caution you against using like iron-on patches or something like that for this, because unless you do a really good job of making sure the edges are secured, they will start to kind of roll, and that's a sensitive area to like have something rubbing, you know what I mean? So the other thing that we will be using is a quilting foot. And the reason that we're going to use this is because we're going to need to be able to bring our stitches back and forth, and this is going to help us do that. The other things I have are my threads. Now, this one is a denim, it's a jeans thread, and it has sort of several different colors to it that are all twined together, and that will help sort of camouflage it. But if I'm feeling like that color is not sort of getting into the true color of what the denim is, then I've got a couple others that I can sort of layer in there if I need to. All right, so let's take a look at the damage. I need to put some iron-on interfacing on the inside, and as you can see, this side's the worst. It does have a hole all the way through, but I do still have a lot of fibers actually left there. The second side's not as bad, but I'm going to reinforce it anyways rather than just waiting for it to tear as well. All right, so I've trimmed my piece of interfacing here, and before I iron it on, I want to make sure that because this hole goes all the way through, I don't want the glue to seep through and stick the leg of the pants together. So I'm just going to slide in a piece of parchment paper before I iron it. Once I've got my piece of parchment inside the leg, I'm going to put another piece of parchment on top of my interfacing and press that down according to the manufacturer's instructions. Once that cools, I just check the edges and make sure that it is adhered well. And then I repeat the process on the other side. On the second side, I didn't bother putting parchment in the leg as there are no holes all the way through the fabric. All right, so there we go. I have my interfacing in, and there's some like fuzzy, fluffy bits that are hanging off. I'm just gonna trim those away. I don't wanna go too crazy with trimming because I wanna be able to utilize some of the threads that are there as part of the fabric that we're going to be creating in the hole. But I do want anything that is like really big and fluffy, it's just going to kind of get in the way. So I'm just trimming those little bits out of there. So as you can see, the hole in my jeans goes across the warp of the fabric. So I have a lot of those weft threads are still in there, and I'm going to use those to my advantage. I didn't cut all of those away. And as you can see, the grain of this fabric is really quite pronounced in the texture of it. So those threads that are running up and down, which are the warp threads, you can really see them. So I want to keep my stitches going up and down as much as possible so that I have a better chance of them blending in. Now, if I had a really huge hole, or I didn't have any of those weft threads or the threads that are going side to side, I would probably use a cross-hatching technique with my stitches just to give extra strength. Really, you're going to have to look at what kind of hole you have, what kind of wear you have, what kind of fabric it is, to see which of these methods is going to work best for you. All right, so I'm just going to switch over my foot and put my free motion quilting foot on. The other important thing, if you're going to use a free motion quilting foot, is you need to drop your feed dogs down. So those are the little teeth that pull your fabric underneath your sewing foot. Those you need to disengage. Now here I am, I'm just sort of zigzagging my stitches back and forth, and I'm going between using really long sets of stitches and short sets of stitches. The long sets I'm using to reinforce the fabric as a whole, give it a lot of strength, and help to hold those holes together. But when I do the small zigzags, that's so I can fill in those holes with more of the color of the thread and sort of blend those in a little bit better. And you'll sort of get a feel for it. And what I did is I worked in sections, because it's really hard if you're going over a really long spans to run your free motion thread all the way from the top to all the way to the bottom. So I just kind of took 2 separate sections and worked on a section until I felt like it was done. One thing you want to make sure of too is that you're not going too fast. If you go too fast, then your stitches will be really long and they won't be as strong. And here is the finished effect. I mean, you can see that there's a little bit of wear there, but really, obviously, nobody's gonna be looking that close at that part of my leg, hopefully. And so it does blend in very well. And I just want to turn it inside out so you can see what the stitching looks like, because it's so hard to see on the top side. But there you can see sort of the 2 distinct sections that I worked in, and you can see where the holes were because I've gone over that area a lot more to sort of try and rebuild that fabric. And just so you can compare them side by side, here's the before and after. And as you can see when I'm wearing them, like, you can't tell at all. This is like having an old friend back. I am so excited to have these jeans back in my life. They are my most comfiest jeans. You can see that there is still a bit of a worn area at that part of my jeans, which, because these jeans have a big wear pattern, I'm not too worried about. If you really wanted to, you could dip dye the whole thing. So I hope you found this tutorial helpful. I know that I have been here so many times where my favorite jeans that I feel like I've just gotten them broken in and then they just turn into nothing, which, I mean, is part of why they're so comfortable, is because the fabric has worn down, but darn it, you just want to keep them. So I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, make sure you give the video a thumbs up, because it really does help my channel. Make sure you subscribe below if you haven't already, and I will see you next week. Hey Sadie, I mended my pants. Sadie, check it out. Look, I'm really excited about this and nobody else is around for me to show. Look at my pants. Sadie, check it out. Anything? Sadie. Come on, man. Give me some support.